nice good handshake. Let's give that back.
I haven't been able to do that for a long time. We've got new pens there if you want one.
New pens?
Travis. You want me to grab these?
Are these for the,
Yeah,
They call us city folk.
you're city folk, yeah.
Town folk.
Uh-oh,
not quite a city yet.
we might be before long though, the way it's looking.
Yeah.
There you go. Are we okay to start with that, Brian?
Yeah.
I know he kind of keeps everybody in check.
Yeah, we're okay to start counting. We don't have anything that we have to really.
How are you?
How are you? I got comfy and then you come in and then you get uncomfy again. I agree, that's no good. That's no good at all. Thank you so much.
And I'll just get Brian's if he
Yeah.
gets here.
If not,
Daryl's
mail.
not here. Ron got his.
Okay, and I got mine,
Did
so.
you get your papers from in there? Because I added more to it that he sent me. Brian, he sent me some stuff at the end of it, so.
Oh, and
I
did you put
it-
them in here?
I put it on the end of
Okay.
yours, yes.
All right, thank you.
So I can just have her mail Daryl.
Oh, yeah,
Daryl's not here.
no,
I'll socially distance it a little.
I'll be that way. I did shower.
After all these months, now he's decided.
Well, then I'll move over just a little bit. There we go.
You get your shots?
You better believe, had both of mine. Yeah,
No, I'm so young.
He's a baby.
I've gotta wait till it's under 30.
you can go now, I
Me
think.
too.
I think I can. I'm 59.
He's got a thing
Yeah, you
saying
can go.
40-year-olds can get it in Summit County.
Yeah.
50
And-
starts next week.
And did you see where in Wasatch County, we can
Oh, that's
open
good.
now, to any amount of people? We don't have to social distance as long as they wear masks.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I heard that on the news tonight.
Everyone keeps changing their things. Texas opened completely up. So,
Yeah.
And they
Minnesota-
have the choice of with or without masks.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, but he opened up completely.
Yeah.
100% business capacity,
Yeah.
100% everything. No mask, nothing.
so we can
Well,
start
they
renting the
keep it
building.
shut down forever.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let's go.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, there's another good reason to be over here. Camera can't see me.
Oh, yeah, it can.
Kind of.
Can't see.
You on?
Yeah, it says it is.
Okay.
It says it's a red.
Okay, we're gonna start our Charleston Town Council regular meeting Thursday, March 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, 3434 West, 3400 South in Charleston, Utah. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Let's see, will you give the prayer?
Sure.
Scott, and will you do the pledge, Jim? Okay, we'll go ahead and do the pledge and the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father in heaven, we're indeed thankful for this time that we have to come together as a town and a city council and to talk about the needs and the things that the city would need. We're thankful for the opportunity that we have to live in this great country and this town, enjoy the freedoms that we have. We'd ask that be with us this evening, that we will talk about things that are pertinent and important to the residents of this city. We're again thankful for all those that have worked so hard to help us with this virus and to get our lives back to normal and We say these things in Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Okay, we will move on to the approval of the minutes of February 4th, 2020. Have you all had a chance to read them?
Yes.
If you have and feel like you can entertain a motion,
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes for February 4th, 2021.
I'll second the motion.
there's a motion by Vaughn, seconded by Jim, that we accept the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the financials for February 4th. You also received them. Have you looked at them? Has everybody looked at them and had a chance to go over them?
I have.
If you have, then, and you want to make a motion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the financial report for February 2021.
I can second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Public comment. This is the time and place for any person who wishes to comment on items not scheduled on the agenda for public hearing. Any person or group wishing to comment on any other item, not otherwise scheduled for the public hearing on this agenda may address the town council at this point by standing, giving his or her name. For the record, comments should be limited to not more than 3 minutes unless the town council authorize additional time.
I have a comment. I just want to say that where there's 2 people from the town inside the room, but it's a little silly that the 7 people watching the live stream right now don't have a clear view of what's going on. So that's my comment for the town for the record. So we have 2 people here that are town board or town members. All the rest are boards and employees. So there's plenty of empty room.
Okay.
So I'm confused at what we're talking about, because everyone's invited, right?
Right, so we don't know how many
Yeah, we don't know how many
is gonna be
show up.
here. Tonight,
We
there
had a
might
big
be
crowd
2
last
next week. See, last time we had a bigger crowd.
Okay, but we could always open doors and make room for everybody.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay?
Well, I got an email asking me to be out here, so that's why I'm out here.
Oh, okay.
That's right. I did ask him. Okay. Cemetery, we're gonna go on, Brian is, he was caught in a accident in Lehigh, and he's winding his way up around through Highland to get here. He may make it, he may not. I told him not to push himself because I'm sure the traffic's terrible. So we'll go on and do what we need to do, and then if he's here, we'll go on into his. If not, we'll just move it to next.
Text that he looks like he's about a half hour out. That was it, after 3.
Okay.
I think he'll be here, but he'll
Yeah,
be
it'll be late. So, okay, we'll move on then. Maybe we'll be all done with all this other stuff and he can come right into his thing. Okay, cemetery lot sales. Now, we've talked about this for months, 3 or 4 months. And I think the purpose of talking about this again is to decide whether we want to open it, leave it open to everybody, or close it just to residents. Is that right? Is that what we're talking about?
I believe so.
Travis? So I'm going to open that for discussion.
So Mayor, did we decide that if somebody has lots, like that one case we were talking about, and they wanted to sell them to another individual, did we decide that we're gonna require that they sell them back to the town if they wanna sell them?
That was, yes. We decided on that, right?
I think it was talked about, but I don't know if we
to decide that.
Exactly, if that's what we wanted to do. I know we talked about it a little bit, but I don't know that if we made a final decision on that, I'm not.
From
But-
what I recall, you didn't, you tabled
Okay.
it till this one to
Okay.
discuss it and make everything final, selling them back and.
And then if they transfer them to another person, then that person has to pay the difference between the town and the non-resident, if they're not a resident, the town and the non-resident.
Right.
I think that was the reason we talked about that, to make it simpler, that they just need
Yeah.
to sell them back to the town.
Yeah, yeah. So, what do you think? What's in them little minds of yours that's moving around and you know you wanna say?
A non-town resident can purchase one.
It's just more.
It's just like, yeah, it's like a out-of-state tuition type.
Right,
Okay.
We're gonna get it or not.
yeah,
I think that's fair.
Midway won't sell to non-residents.
200 bucks.
Yeah.
Weaver City will, but Midway won't.
Yeah,
did you get your new pen?
I did, thank you. Love it, too.
So,
I'm thinking that we just need to make it, if they're selling them, then it goes back to the town.
okay,
That's my opinion.
but if they go ahead and transfer them to a non-resident, then they should pay the difference?
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna require they sell them back to the town, then they can't transfer.
You can't transfer.
But they're not selling them, they're just
Yeah, but it
transferring.
has to be a family member. That's kind of what was talked about, is that you had to show lineage
Okay,
of being tied back.
Well,
to
I
the-
guess if they're gonna transfer them, they wanna transfer them to another resident, that's okay, but if
Well,
they're
yeah,
transferring
but
to
if you just
non-
transfer them to a non-resident, you can come in, buy 20 plots and just, I transfer these over.
Yeah.
You'll never know they were sold, you'll never have a record,
right, right.
so.
Okay. So, my understanding is, from the discussions we've had, is that if they want to sell a lot, they sell it back to us. They do not do a transfer to any non-resident.
Okay.
That, I mean, that, but I'm just saying, is that what the
Yeah.
board
Is that
wants?
reasonable? Is that-
It is, if Vaughn owns 10 lots and Travis dies, you know, and he wants to bury Travis in his plot, that's his choice.
Right.
We're good with that. It's just if Vaughn comes in and buys 20 lots and then transfers them off to his cousin in California.
Right, okay,
Can we, is it possible to make it so that the first right of a purchase could be somebody that would be designated by the person selling them back? So if he wanted lot A to go to a certain person, he's not a resident, he sells them back to us, we sell it to that person. Is there a way to keep it so that whoever bought them has the say
Well,
on that?
brings
Or
in the
is that?
second question, are we gonna continue to sell to non-residents?
Kind of what was talked
Now-
about before was that if they bought them and they owned them, the person
Uh-huh.
owned them, they could put whoever they wanted in those, they can name those plots.
Right,
But if they wanted to transfer them to them and they're non-resident, then they can't do it.
So, we
I
have
mean, they could-
200 plots, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I guess just so that everyone's aware, the price we went to on the non-resident plots is $2,000, which is a pretty good jump from the resident price.
Is that the same as Heber's?
Yeah, or well, it's pretty close. I think Heber is, they're either 1,800 or 2,000, so it's close. Just since the meeting last month though, I've had two people come in that were non-residents and want to purchase lots, and that price deterred them from wanting to purchase here. They were just looking for
Just looking
No,
for a
cheap.
cheap place.
Oh.
cheap lots.
Yeah.
So I guess,
interesting.
just so that you're aware of that, if you wanted to give it some time and see how that works.
So how many burial plots are there over there available?
With just over 200. I don't remember the exact number we have left, but it's just over 200.
How many are we using a year?
We probably average 15 burials a year. I mean, it just depends. But
but a lot of them are already have lots, so, yeah.
So we have 200 available.
200 available to sell.
With the growth in Charleston.
That's what I'm saying, you gotta kinda equate how soon those are gonna be gone.
Yeah,
Well, one of my questions is why would any non-resident come buy a lot in Charleston?
Do you know it happens a lot, I've noticed?
is it because it's cheaper?
No,
Absolutely.
it's not a financial issue, I don't think it is, for a lot of people,
Now,
I
if
think
it's it's somebody that grew up here that does Charleston, I don't understand.
well, they
Well,
wanna
I think
be
big
by a
cities
family
are-
member or,
Well, and you also have, just the neighboring areas, the Daniel area, Center Creek, Lake Creek, all of those people fall into a non-resident, category with any cemetery. So
Yeah.
even Heber City, they have to pay a non-resident fee in Heber City if they're from Daniel or Center Creek.
And we only have 3
Um,
cemeteries.
Right, and Midway doesn't allow residents anymore, or non-residents, and so really for the other people in the valley, there's really only 2 cemeteries left,
Right.
so.
Well, I think I'd be okay with leaving it open to non-residents, but I don't think we should sell them for any less than what Heber City sells theirs.
no, I
Right.
agree, I would agree.
And this can be readdressed later. I mean, a year.
Oh,
from-
yeah, a year
a
from
year
now,
from
or
now,
2
if we're
years
seeing
from
a-
now, yeah. But right now, we're talking
But
about it, yeah.
if we do that, I would say we kinda watch what Heber City does and match whatever they charge,
Okay, does somebody wanna make
or
a,
be real close to it.
okay,
Well, just so I understand, are you going to sell the lots back to the town, or are you gonna allow them to transfer to non-residents and just pay the difference, just so I know?
no. My understanding is that they will have to sell their lot back to the town.
Why do the extra paperwork? All you have to do is in a transfer, you don't have to do a sale back and forth, you're doing double paperwork.
Well, we don't want them
You're
to
doing.
buy 10 lots and then sell 10 of them off cheaper for making $300 a lot or
But they're
something.
not gonna sell them cheaper if you sell,
Right.
they still have to pay the difference in your transfer. So why would it make a difference?
Guys, you guys are the
No,
one,
Doing the paperwork, then you're doing a sales,
It's fine if they're doing the transfer that way, cause they'll
Mhm.
still have to come in and transfer and record it
Record it.
with.
yeah,
Well, I guess we
Travis
could say if they're making a sell like that, the sell can't be completed until it's
they pay
transferred
the
properly.
difference.
and they
or
pay the
transfer,
difference.
Whatever they wanna call it.
And then pay the upcharge.
I mean,
That
the
works.
transfer paperwork, it looks to me like it'd be just as much as the sell, wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
As long
I think the
as,
way it's set up now, if it's a family member and they show that family.
Lineage.
That family tree, that they're a descendant of whoever owns the lots, we've been transferring them, just
Yeah,
for the transfer fee. But if they transfer them to a non-family member that's a non-resident as well, then I think that's kind of where we get
Yeah.
into that issue. So I think if they're transferring to family and they can prove that, I would say we'll probably be okay with that, or in my opinion, but.
yeah, as long as it's family, we're good with that.
Yeah. But I think if it's going.
You're the one that's doing it and running it, what's your recommendation?
Well, that's what I would recommend there, was, as long as it's family, it would make sense to me to be able to transfer that down to family, because a lot of people grow up here and they move away. If they were to move to
Mhm.
Daniel area, that would put them, they're a couple miles away, but it puts them into that category where they're not having to pay a lot of money. But if that were passed down through family, I think we would still wanna accommodate that, in my opinion. I think the
I
problem
agree
is,
with that.
We're all good with that, that transfer's fine, it's just,
Yeah.
it's someone that buys them all and then tries to transfer them off. to
Well,
someone
my,
else.
my thing is, if they buy 10 lots and they transfer 3 of them to their friends in Heber City or somewhere else, that's friends, that's
yeah,
not
I think
family.
that's the case where they should have to sell them back to the town.
Okay,
Yeah.
If they're not family, and,
Just pay the difference.
yeah,
right, or pay the
Right,
difference,
either
yeah.
way.
But,
okay, so we'll probably need a motion to to do that, we'll need to have a resolution, right?
I think it's for
2021-04. Okay. So if somebody wants to go ahead and do that, then we'll,
I
I'm
can
happy
probably,
to do it, but I don't know what to say.
well, you just,
I'll make a resolution 2021-04 that cemetery lots that are sold to people outside of the city that are non-family members either transfer to the upscale price or pay the upscale price.
understandable.
Does that work, Travis?
Yeah. And non-residents pay.
And non-residents pay non-residents fee
price.
Okay,
in a fair market value according to what other cities like
Or what-
Heber are doing.
okay,
You've
I'll
already-
second that.
You've already set it at 2,000 though.
And I think that's fine.
yeah. If we have to raise it, we can, but it will be, yeah.
For now, the resolution's fine.
Yeah. Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. Any more comment? Okay, we do a roll call vote. Vaughn
Aye.
Aye.
and I. So motion carries. I forgot to say at the first that Daryl has to be excused. He's out of town. These guys that go out of town, boy, I don't know.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I haven't gone anywhere for over a year.
Me either, but I'm gonna. Okay, so let's move on to open the bids on the surplus truck. We have gathered two bids. Two or three, Karen?
just two.
Oh, okay, two bids for the truck. They'll be opened tonight. I will go ahead and open them. And read them. $19.99 Ford pickup, bidder, Waldell Brothers Construction. At least we got bids.
That was more than I expected.
Purchase offer for 1999 Ford F-350 dump truck with plow. Purchase offer $8,400 from Corey Jones. So it's very clear who's gonna get a,
Yeah, I don't see any question now.
do you wanna look at these bids, you guys?
Bid on that
No,
one,
I-
375.
9,375 and 8,400.
So $1,000.
$1,000 difference.
So do you need to sign the title over so Travis has that? Who signs that title over? We found it, but
Alan,
doesn't the mayor
What's
have
that?
to
do I
sign
need
the
to sign that
over?
title over? The mayor does that?
Well, that's a good question, I don't know.
Well, on one of the other ones that we were looking in the file with, John Whiting, he's the one that signed over one of the other ones.
Is it in the town's name?
I believe
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, they are.
Probably.
Okay.
Just one word advice there, sign it and then take a picture of it, take it and then date it, make sure it's dated, so that if he hauls it off, don't ever get it insured, or don't ever
Oh,
get it
then he
licensed,
can't come
or-
back on us.
Yeah. Just make sure you
Okay.
take a
So
picture
I'll
of it.
get that out for you today, and then he can call these people tomorrow.
Okay.
Write up a bill of sale or something to go with it.
Yeah. All right, so the bid went to, does anybody in the audience want to look at these bids? Okay, so the bid will be give to Wardell Brothers Construction. I have a contact name and phone number here. Darren,
I can contact them in the morning.
okay? You probably need this. Do you want them both or?
Keep them both for record,
Where are they from?
Mayor.
Uh-huh.
Keep them both for the record.
Yeah, we'll keep them
In
both
case
for
they
the
come
record.
back and argue.
Yeah, 801-710-1904. It's Wardell Brothers Construction. I have no idea.
I'll get that from you after the meeting.
Okay,
Probably.
all right, so the truck will be gone. Everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
I certainly am. Okay. Now, we're gonna move on. The next one is a text amendment request to the land use ordinance of the Charleston Town Land Use Ordinance allowing self-storage units in the Class C1 as a conditional use, requested by Cam Brown. Discussion, Cam, I'm gonna let you
We do one thing? Okay.
do your thing.
So last week, planning commission, what we decided to do was, basically, storage units are a prohibited use, business in the existing ordinance. So, what we did as a planning commission is change that to a conditional use, but only allow so much land. So to expand that, available land in Charleston to 11.5 acres. Half of that land is already being used out by existing, storage sheds. The one along the highway, I can't remember what it is, and then
Deer
Culver
Creek
Top.
storage.
Deer Creek storage, and then the one right next to our proposed land that we'd like to build that on. And, yeah, so planning commission that passed, and so that would allow all the acres that we have on that.
So that would be 5.69 acres.
Right. And so here's just, I mean, everybody knows, I know this isn't the time to be showing
Right.
what we're doing, but, you know, we're not trying to hide anything, and this is basically what we're looking to do. And all this obviously is subject to change. This is a conditional use ordinance, so, you know, this isn't the time when we start making plans, but this is what we have planned out so far. And then I'll show you guys, this is just a quick thing that we made. This was, so this is going up, driving up 3,000 towards the light from, say, my dad's house.
Okay.
So you can, I don't know if you can all see that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's kinda nice, thank you.
So really what we're focusing on is making a berm and a wall that's gonna hide all of the storage sheds from 3,000. And that includes the west side of our property as well. So when you're driving up 3,000, you won't be able to,
Really?
you'll see trees and you'll see berms and you'll see fences.
You'll see people skateboarding.
People riding bikes.
Yeah, that's not quite how it's.
You might not see that cow either.
Yeah,
Right.
so,
So all the buildings would be set back behind landscape.
right, and this isn't to scale as far as the setbacks are concerned.
Right.
We haven't,
Right.
we haven't even set
Oh,
an
look,
ordinance yet.
there's our horses.
I
Look.
like how the horses are there without a
And the
fence.
fence.
No fence, just,
They don't say.
this is our line.
Look what technology.
Tell the
can do.
guys that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's what we have planned, and obviously we send them an ordinance, then we're gonna have our setbacks and have the wall back and all that sort of stuff. We are very aware of the look of the property, mainly because we have other properties right next to it that we want to make sure look good for, you know,
Future.
residents and whatever else we have there. We feel it's a good fit for the city, just because the money for taxes helps the city out. The light's there, and so that really kind of has come to business part of Charleston. And it fits with the area. There's storage sheds right there next to it as well. Ours are going to look, you know, they just have chain link fences and all that. Ours is gonna look, you know, far superior to what they have there.
Well, we made a commitment to not have any storage outside. It'll all be under.
Right.
That was the
That was
question I
a
was gonna
question,
ask. Is that in here anywhere?
Yes.
I thought it was.
I read it.
All of
Yes. Yeah, so
It's all
Is
inside
that all
storage.
with frontage
it's all
and
inside
everything?
storage.
Yeah.
Everything is enclosed, all four sides?
Yeah,
Yes, there's not gonna be one thing outside in the lean-to or in just a
Well,
roof or whatever.
Just like the one up north there, they have the building with the two sides, but you can see right in the whole face of it, you know?
yeah.
Everything's back in
This
there.
is, you won't be able to if they landscape it.
That's true, and, you know, like, and this is all stuff that we guys have, that we have brought to you, you know, under just wanting to make it look good. We weren't coming to you saying, hey, what do we have to do to get this done? This is all our ideas, this is something we wanna make look nice and something that's gonna be in our family for quite some time.
Well, and for me, the main thing too is talking about getting it off the road, and we gotta push snow and get there on the one side, you know, you got some stuff that's pretty close to the road. We're smart enough to know to get this back off the road, and it can, you have a place where you can, you know, pull in to get off that road and set that back, so. That's one thing that might not show there, is, you know, you're not gonna have a road and a sidewalk next to it, and then the trees right there, we gotta back that off. You know, the ordinance is 55 feet from the center of the road, or 30 feet from the property line, no matter what you build.
Yeah,
But we would at least, you know, go that far to try and get it off the road. You can see that, retention pond that's on the west, that, we've gotta have somewhere to push snow and catch the water in case you have an event. You know, that stuff's a science, I mean, you gotta wanna build that according to certain specs. And all this stuff and the specs and whatever else will go to the planning commission for more review. What you're passing tonight, if you are asked to look at, is, you know, the total will be 11 acres in Charleston, total storage shed. This property, as far as I know, now let's see, where else would there be, is against the highway, which is, meets the ordinance, and it has an arterial road, which would be 3,000 south, so there's not too many of them that fit that, you know, get the highway plus an arterial road.
right.
I mean, and we're only looking at, you know, we're not looking at going west. Everything from up there to the canal, over to the highway.
And what did you decide to do against the highway? So when people drive by on the highway, is it just gonna be opened, or is that gonna have the berm?
We'll have to take a look at that, yeah,
I think that's important, at least for advertising, to make sure that people from the highway can see what is there. I mean, I'm not sure there's a business out there that, you know, tries to hide themselves.
No, I'm
Yeah.
just asking what your plan is.
Right, and that's the plan. We'll probably take those trees out and, you know, whether we want to put, you know, there's a lot
They
of
wanna put
considerations, signs and stuff
signage
like
there.
that. Signs can only be so big. You know,
Glad to see ya.
we're not too interested in putting too many signs up there, I don't think so.
But it's well kept.
Yeah.
It's gonna be well kept. I mean, the whole project looks like it's gonna be, so it's gonna be nice. It's not gonna be the shrubs.
Child died.
right,
We look,
the only place they can
That's
see
what I
it, we
heard
wanna
on
make
the
sure
news.
that it looks good, obviously.
so basically
Maybe a phone number
self-advertising.
on the side of the wall or something, but other than that,
Yeah,
So there's some things I like about it. I think storage units are quiet neighbors. I don't think they create a trainload of traffic. You know, like other projects could. I mean, you have a person come in, it seems like you never see anybody coming in and out of them, they bring their stuff, they park it, and they're gone.
Well, that's the whole,
That's the whole goal, it's quiet, I like Brian's theory earlier.
yeah, well, you can scrape them someday.
You can, yeah, they're quick, they're easy to go when something nicer comes, so.
How far into the plan are you guys, as far as the business run?
This is it.
You haven't talked
Like,
We
about,
haven't wanted to kinda get too crazy till we
Right.
see if you're
If
allowed.
we can
They'll
change
still have to have all the drawings done, the
Yeah.
no,
drainage,
no, I
all
meant,
that
I
come
meant
back
business
for
plan of like,
approval.
is it a 24/7? People can access it
Oh.
24/7, is it shut down at certain hours? I mean,
Well, it's pretty amazing what you can do now, it can be unmanned.
yeah.
It's remote, yeah.
Right, and so everything, very rarely are people even gonna go into the office that we would have there.
Yeah.
Just because everything will be online, there'd be a kiosk there. We're open at, from
We do
6 to 8, we're able to keep it open, shut it down, be fine with me, not have to worry about things from 8
We
o'clock
won't-
till 6.
yeah,
No, I'm
we
just-
wouldn't think
Like I
that-
said, up there on the other ones, some of them you can access all night, and then the others shut down at a certain
And
point.
this ordinance gives us the ability to set hours, and not just even for this one, if you had another one, you decided, okay, this is a good place for them, but it's in an area where you wanted it to be shut down, but that's all, that would all be worked out at the conditional use permit stage.
So those kind of parameters are,
Yeah,
are put into place when they come
Yeah,
for
when they
the
get the approval.
application for.
Yeah.
for
So what they would need is, under this, they would need, and they can do it at the same time, but they need a site plan approval, which is all the physical, the drainage and the buildings and that, and then they would need a conditional use permit, and they can happen at the same application, but.
So in that conditional use permit, the town can specify certain things.
And there's certain conditions right in here that says you can.
Yeah.
I was trying to look in here to see if it said that it all had to be,
You see stuff
I
happen.
mean, we're basically taking commercial
Yeah, that's
storage
what-
units
That's why I was just
out
kinda
of
asking though.
prohibited uses.
I know what happens at these places at
But
night versus
does it
day
say in here
versus-
that
Yeah.
So it's
whatever
more
we
of
approve has to
a
be
second
indoor
job
storage?
curiosity here.
Safe,
Yeah.
secure,
Yeah.
yeah, well, sure, no, you just have
I
knowledge.
looked for it, I
I
thought
know.
I read that, but I couldn't find it now.
Yeah, it
I
says,
think they made that part of the,
there's a so with the two existing, units and the proposal for this property, there's 11.5 acres
Right
total
here.
that would be allowed in the commercial zone. That could be changed at some time if you ever wanted to do another, property. I put, you have to be at least 2 acres, but no more than 6 acres. Storage is allowed.
I looked for it. I just-
No storage allowed
I read
outside
it
of
before,
enclosed
so I knew it
buildings.
was in there.
The landscaping will be determined, at the time of the conditional use, for a time of operation restrictions may be imposed as part of conditional use and other reasonable conditions.
This is still that same strip we talked about, right?
Right.
Just down that backside,
Yep.
yeah,
corner piece.
and that's that 5.69 acres.
And then, I don't know if you noticed, but there's one housekeeping item I noticed when we were doing this, that still referred to the premises occupation. ordinance, so that
Oh,
would
I
take-
seen that, and what
That would
was,
take that out. And this takes I took commercial storage units and I used a more, recognized term when I added it back in, which is self-storage. So
okay.
it's a little more clear what we're talking about in the ordinance. That's why that nomenclature changed.
Okay, is there any other comment?
Yes,
or-
you talked about the planning commission's recommendation.
No, you need to talk about that.
Okay, so the planning commission, there were 3 members there. All 3 voted in favor, which they had to pass a positive recommendation under state law. The majority of the, of you 5, if there were only 3 here, you'd have to do a unanimous vote.
Yeah.
And they have a 5-member commission, so they had to do a unanimous vote.
Which they did.
They did get a unanimous vote for those that were there. They didn't have any suggestions or changes or anything they wanted to change. They liked it the way it was, so.
Okay. All right, any comment from the board? Anything?
I think I asked my questions.
Okay,
My position's all along has been that if you present to the planning commission they come back with a positive recommendation, then I'm in favor of it. If they come back negative, I'd be negative, so that's, I don't have any questions. I'm gonna take their recommendation.
Okay, then we need to have a motion on the ordinance number 2021-01.
And it would be a roll call vote.
Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to make it?
I can, go ahead.
Make a motion that we accept the ordinance 2021-01.
Mm-hmm.
I'll second it.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll have roll call vote. We'll start with Jim.
Yay.
Yay.
Yes.
And yes.
I think we'll go to work.
Go to work, guys. It sounds like you need to,
One of the things the planning commission, just throw this out, is, they felt like they wanted something different than what we've got right now. So we
Yeah.
kind of made a commitment
to do
to
that.
so,
And
that's
that's
our
part of
goal.
the reason for the no storage, outdoor storage
Right.
and some of those things.
Right. That's, you guys, I think your plan is good. I will be checking it closer when you bring in your real plans so that we know what's happening. And I think that,
So what would be the next step? We have to,
Yeah, once you get all your plans drawn up and your engineering done for, not for the buildings, you don't have to do the building, that would happen with the building permit, but for your drainage for your site, those
Site
kinds of-
plan.
Site plan, where you're gonna lay out the buildings, what your landscape's gonna be, what the buildings are gonna, when you finalize what the buildings will look like, then you make an application for the conditional use permit and the site plan approval. I would start with the planning commission, they would make a recommendation, your town board would give the final approval.
okay,
I think the key to making it something that the town appreciates and likes is your idea on landscaping and making it appear, I think that's the key to it.
Well, we got the ground next to it on two sides.
Yeah.
We don't want to screw it up too bad.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
Besides
agree.
trying
That,
to do storage sheds and then try the other ground desk.
Right, okay. All right, then we'll move on to our,
Training, we're out of here.
Alan, take one of our new pens.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it.
I'll have it if you want it.
Yeah, this is,
We do have a whiteboard.
When you get further into this, get with me on, security and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I can give you some input and output on them. That'd be great.
Okay.
We go with it all the time.
Is this training the same thing as what you want me to do online?
No.
Requesting too much training.
Yeah, get with me later.
Okay.
We'll discuss some stuff.
Appreciate that.
Give you some heads up.
Thanks.
This, we
The,
should keep this fairly short and sweet, but, and sorry about being late, it took me an hour to get from South Jordan to Lehigh.
Yeah,
The freeway was closed, I guess there was a mother and two children that
What
ran
the-
into a wall.
killed one of the
And,
Go flat.
children.
You did dump it anyways.
oh, sorry.
I was trying to stop that.
You did, I didn't listen, my wife can tell you that's normal. But, yeah, I called my wife on the phone, asked her to watch the news, see what was going on, and she said that they said that one of the little kids' heart was stopped,
Oh,
and there was some nurses in cars or something by there that they think that they got the heart started again, but they life flighted it out. And of course, anytime there's that kind of accident or death or whatever, they close the road down for investigation. Last I had heard, when KSL stopped broadcasting traffic reports, the road was still closed. So
Yeah.
I was lucky and was able to get off at Thanksgiving Point, get turned around and go up through Highland. And then I got halfway through, up to Orem, and there was another accident in an intersection. Right after I told you I'd be about a half hour out, there was another accident.
oh,
Did you guys get the picture? Okay, you got those.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's see here. So what are those, a couple of those are from, a presentation that Craig Smith, who's the gentleman that does our Board of Adjustment stuff, the hearing officer, and I gave to a group of local officials back in August. But anyway, what I talked to, I'm gonna move this from the trip on. When I talked to Brenda about maybe doing some of this, a little bit of just chatting about how economic development works, I sense with some of the things that, thanks, Trevor, some of the things that we were kind of up against, and some of the requests that were being made, that there was a sense that of how these things happen. And a typical city, economic development is very different than planning, although they have to work together. Generally, larger cities actually have different where I work, different economic development department from a planning and building department. Years ago, I was over all of it, and then they split it and asked me to just do economic development. So I was over the building inspectors, the planners, and economic development. Planners generally, not saying our planners, but just planning commissions generally probably run off more economic development than they help attract. And Scott, you probably experienced that in your line of work. They have a different look. They and a different goal. Sometimes I'm at odds with my own planning commission down in South Jordan, because got a business that wants to come in, and they've got these dreams of having all of the buildings right up against the street, and no gas pumps out by the street, and pumps are in the back. Well, the first thing that the gas station says, we'll go somewhere else. So you get with signs and different things, and looks of buildings. You get a national chain comes in and you say, well, we don't like the way that looks, we want to look like this, and they say, okay, well, we'll go somewhere else because this is our look. So those are the kind of things. But so economic development sometime, really for the most part, economic development, city councils, or town councils are very involved in economic development at the whole way through, much more than they are with the planning issues. They start with the planning commission. A lot of times it'll start with the city council, and somebody will come in and say, hey, I want to put something in, and we want to meet with the city council before they even spend all the money to go through a planning commission. Spend all the money to design, and kind of like what we just did with the storage units. They came in and said, what do you think? We're going to do this, and then they went through. Go to, I'll just give you kind of backwards. Go to the kind of the back end, and the picture, the aerial photos.
Mm-hmm.
So look, there's a before and after aerial photo of the same location.
Oh,
That is the district.
This one?
Yeah, nope.
that's one.
There'll be two of them that look almost exactly alike, but if you notice, there's an area that looks like Charleston, probably looks now. And that was about the time I went to work for South Jordan in 2005. The road on the north end of that property was still a dirt road. It's now 114th South that crosses Bangor Highway and goes into Daybreak. So this is a project that we did. It's, ironically very similar to the amount, it's like 112 acres or something. We're talking about 100 acres north of town. Right now, that area currently provides about 25% of the sales tax that South Jordan gets. That's where the Larry H. Miller Megaplex 20 is. There's a Target. There was a Gordman's that it's closed up. There's a J.C. Penney's. There's a Harmon's. There's all kinds of little stores down the middle. There's one of the best restaurants, if you want a good steak, you'll ever eat at right down there. The Wild Rose. There's all kinds of stuff. And part of what we did was we created a project area we'll talk about that a little bit more, but we created this project area so that we could basically, put money into to entice. We knew that that area was ripe for some kind of development, and different developers were looking around. In the end, we ended up partnering with the Boyer Company and Kim Gardner, who at the time was still part of the Boyer Company. He's now split off and has his own development company. And then another Arbor Commercial, so there's 3 partners there. So how did we help finance that? And that goes back to this sheet with the green. I'm just trying to draw this out a little bit. But you've got the blue line along the bottom, and that's, so this is time, and this is money, or this is tax money. So what you've got is, yeah, so what you've got is, so what we do is we create a project area. So if you go to this little blue one here, little blue dot, that's kind of the process it takes to, like under state law, this one. So what, that's the process, the mechanism for, what we're trying to do here is attract economic development. So the state has a process that you can go through, and it's super controversial, but you have to create what they call a redevelopment agency. And there's all kinds of magic that happens in ordinances and laws. It's similar to when we get the bond, got all these advertising stuff. So that creates an agency. Now the agency is actually created under the state of Utah. It's not under the town. And so it's a separate governmental entity. But the town board would be the board of directors. So we often have meetings where we have to move out of the city council meeting and into a board or a redevelopment agency meeting. So then the members stop referring to you as mayor and start referring to you as the chairman of the board, and then we go out of that and go back. So it's a completely, you change your hat. And so it's a completely different governmental entity, but you're still, and it's kind of funny, but it's still run by the same people. A lot of times, same staff. And so you create this board. And then the next thing you do is you have to, like this area, you have to find an area. And you say, okay, well, now we're gonna create a project area. And so you go through a whole, and this takes probably about 4 or 5 months to do, and you create, because there's public hearings that have like 30-day periods, and there's all kinds of things. And I don't think there's one of these in Wasatch County, a redevelopment agency or a project area. But so you would create this project area and go through all that rigmarole, and then depending on how you do it, so what in this case, the city did was they put out an RFP and said, different developers, come and tell us what you would do with this area. And then the really fun thing is part of creating the project area, in some instances, you have to declare the area blighted. So it's really fun to go and have a hearing and have people show up that live there and say, you have a blighted area. And blight is a really loose term. And you could say, well, that area is blighted because it's not really in production, and that's used to be much more important. The legislature's created some other paths where you don't have to do a blight assessment and blight hearing and whatnot. But so it used to be that really this was we call redevelopment. It was for redevelopment. It was like, hey, we've got an area. One of the more infamous ones is if you're down there in Salt Lake where the Grand America Hotel is, and the Flower Patch is. Mm-hmm. Well, that when they put all that together, that was a redevelopment thing. Well, the Flower Patch didn't want to sell. Redevelopment agencies in certain circumstances do have the power of eminent domain. They can come down. They didn't want to, so they just said, all right, Flower Patch, you can have your little corner and we'll just build around you. And so anyway, so we put out this thing and this partnership of Boyer, Gardner, and Harbor came together and made a proposal, this is what we wanna do, and they actually flew us down to the district in Las Vegas and said, you know, this is kinda what we wanna do, and we looked around.
I'm sure.
We did not wanna be beholden to anybody, but we went down with them, and I've done several of these trips across the country for different projects, but, we looked at it, they proposed plans, and then we said, you know, basically, we're not gonna condemn any of these properties, so you need to go make a deal with these people and buy the properties. And, you know, even though we did the blight hearing, and if you'll notice, right, let's see, on the older map, that you can see a little cul-de-sac in there,
Right?
right there. Well, by the time that, from this time this picture taken till the time we got this created, that house filled up with, or that cul-de-sac filled up with homes. Swimming pools, some of them have never even been lived in, and the developer ended up buying these homes at full market and tearing down brand new homes.
Wow.
Now there's a big apartment complex on top of it, you can see the other.
Yeah.
And you can see how with that development, a lot of times with these developments, they're mixed-use developments, you need to do rooftops, retail follows rooftops, you know. They watch, they see, I get calls all the time down there saying, how many permits did you guys issue last year, how many the year before, they wanna see what's going on. Costco, which is in a different area, which we actually didn't do a redevelopment project area for, they, back in 2007, had their building permit, they were ready to start. I think we gave them some incentives, we discounted their building permit fees and some impact fees, which is a really bad idea, but we did it. Then the recession was coming and they decided not to build. So I worked with Costco for 7 years to get them to come and start. I flew to Issaquah, Washington twice, met with the president of Costco, and I said, we love you, we want you. Kept giving them information, and the reason I bring it up is just demographic information all the time. Feeding it to them, just saying, okay, yeah, we're still growing, things are still happening. Even through the recession, we were growing like crazy. Less than we were before, but still. Anyway, when they finally thought that, you know, it was economically feasible, they came, finished pulling the permit, and built the building. Since then, you know, there's been ones built in Spanish Fork, Saratoga Springs, and other areas. Most of those have cost those cities somewhere around $10 to $12 million to get them to come. And that's not that they wrote them out a check, it's what we call post-performance. So it means you come and then we'll give you some of your sales tax back, or but if you don't build the building, we're not giving you a dime. And the state learned a big lesson with Micron. They wrote them out some big checks, and then Micron decided not to come, but they had the money. And so everything's pretty gone to post-performance, so it's all set up so that you will, if you perform, then you get money. So we create this area, and we have to work with the county assessor and the county, you know, and we say, okay, what is the value of the property, the pre-development value? So we look at it and say, you know, for easy, this area, that's the tax value, not the amount of taxes that they're getting, but the tax value. And so those properties, so that's the school district taxes, the water conservancy districts, the fire district, is the money that comes from this. And it's basically, you know, relative, because you've got a tax rate that's giving you money. So the way this works is that for the period, let's say this is a 20-year period, for 20 years, everybody gets what they always got. So you hear a lot of times that we're stealing money from the school children. Well, it's not really doing that, because what we try to do is we have what we call the but-for test, which means that project would not happen but for we put together the project area. This particular project area, the city of South Jordan bonded $13 million, and it was paid back with property taxes. Now, what happens is, so we go here, and then what we get is, and they call this TIF, tax increment financing. So you start here, and you can see how that line kind of starts out low and then kind of goes up to green. So this area here, which is green on your paper, is the TIF, the tax increment financing. So this is the increased value from what we had before we did the development. And so that, you know, the value increases, tax rates stay, basically the same. A lot of times, if they do a tax increase, you don't get that money, this line actually raises if you get a tax increase.
Yeah.
But, so this amount of money, this is what you use to, you know, and there's different ways to use it. You know, what basically we did was we had to bring in, a little bit similar to what we've got here, we had to bring water and sewer and roads, and like I said, there was a dirt road, and, you know, so we helped pay for all that, and we bonded for it against our sales tax, so we did a revenue bond, and you know, we're going to pay off that bond this year, in 2021. It's a 10-year bond, and anyway, it's worked out great. Like I said, what was in it for the city? The city got, in this case, we got a lot of sales tax. You know, I think, I can't remember exactly, but you know, $2.5 million a year or something like that in sales tax off. It's just the city's portion, that 0.5%. This year it's been a little different because that movie theater brought in a lot of sales tax,
And
movie
now
theaters
it's
being
not.
closed down and whatnot. And, you know, now we're in a little bit of a scared position because Larry, the Miller folks are thinking about closing that theater. And part of the problem is, right before Larry died, you know, a few years before, you know, he built a racetrack out there that
Yeah.
cost him millions and never made any money. These movie theaters, he kind of did the same thing. He had made all this money, and he said, you know,
Had to use it.
we don't, you know, I mean, we wanna break even, but we don't need to be making money on these movie theaters. And he's got them all over, and he said, this is part of our giving back to the community. Well, now, 10 years later, after Mr. Miller passed away, they're like, well, that was great, but we gotta run these theaters, and movies are going down, and streaming's going, so we're in a little bit of a panic mode right now, going, okay, how do, because the rest of those businesses really rely on that theater. If it wasn't for that theater, those businesses would have all just drawn up and blown away. And so you, like I say, so you get this guy, you get a mixture, you get a partner with a developer. They put in, obviously, millions of dollars that they borrow into, you know, during the recession, they had to redo their loans. We didn't make enough money off our tax increment in a couple of years to pay our bond payments, because they protested their taxes, and we're like, geez, guys, give us a break, we did all this for you, and they're like, well, sorry, but, you know, we had to protest our taxes. You know, in the end, the values got up high enough that we more than made up and we could pay ourselves back. And so that's tax increment financing, you know, kind of in a nutshell. The other one you look at, the eBay, if you see the pictures with eBay on there, that's a different kind of project. That's $60 million, or I'm sorry, 60 acres. One business, it's a data center, uses a ton of water, uses a ton of electricity, and they have put over $1.2 billion in capital investment in that property, of which the tax, and that's, the reason that's so much is because that building is nothing but computer servers. And those computer servers are really expensive, and they only last about 3 to 5 years, and so they have to keep pulling them out, so their depreciation, like, sometimes you get a big manufacturing company, and they have a machine that's depreciated out of 20 or 30 years. Towards the end, you're not getting a lot of personal property tax. Well, they redo these every 3 to 5 years, so that tax value stays really high. So their tax value, which is, you know, all these things are on the internet, you know, through the recorder's office, but, you know, their tax value last year was $550 million. The value, you know, like I say, when I say they put $1.2 billion into it, but that means, you know, some of those computers have gone away. But, you know, but what did we do here? Well, we didn't pay for really, we helped pay for the roads around them. That was part of the deal that we're paying back with the tech project area we did there. But a big portion of it just goes to eBay as an incentive to come. You're like, well, you know, why would we do something like this? Well, in this case, it made sense. So the way we structured the deal, eBay got 100% of the property tax dollars for everybody but the school district. School district for, and eBay, the whole project area is a 20-year thing, but eBay only had a 10-year participation. And for the 10 years, they got 50% of the school district's taxes. The project area, which was to pay for the roads and whatnot, got 25%, and then the school district got 25%. Last year I wrote eBay a check for $1 million. You know, school district loves data centers, the school districts do, because they don't bring a lot of houses, which means they don't bring a lot of kids to educate, and they're a high tax value.
Yeah.
They hate, school districts hate ones with a lot of homes in them, because you're giving our tax dollars away, or you're taking our tax dollars away, and we have to educate the kids that are these, you know. So they, you know, they don't, but this was purely, you know, and for the most part, South Jordan, we don't buy economic development. What we do is we try to look at with the company, and we say, okay, there's what the company can afford, there's what it's gonna take for them to be able to afford to do it. This is the gap. And what we do is we try to fill that gap with this tax income. We don't, you know, generally, you know, we don't. We've turned away car dealerships. We had one car dealership that, with the amount of money that they wanted, we just said, you want too much. This is what we did for other car dealerships. This is what we'll do for you. Oh no, that's not near enough. Well then, you gotta be willing to say no. You see, we just said no. We're not gonna. And what I've always tried to do when I work with these is I don't want to put a company that's invested in my community and come in at an economic or a competitive disadvantage to somebody else I'm bringing in. I don't care if that's a hamburger restaurant, a dry cleaner, or a car dealership. So in the end, they finally said, okay, we'll take what you're doing, and they came. But and it's not always money. One of the things that all the car dealerships that we dealt with, they came from a neighboring city who had tree ordinances for their street trees. Well, they were cute when they were little. When they grew up, they're like puppies. You know, when they grew up, you couldn't see their cars. And they hate them, and that was one of the first things they said is, you have the same ordinances as they do. If you make us put in trees like that, we're not coming. So we found a way to tweak it and say, okay, instead of putting all the trees along here, how about if we just do the same number of trees and put them in a little planter at the end? Oh, that would look great, so that's fine. And so sometimes it's tweaking your ordinance to make sure that they come in. And so anyway, so you, is that making sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how tax increment finance. So you're like, okay, well, how do we get the money from the school district and all that? Well, there's been various ways over the years. About every year, there's redevelopment agency bills at the legislature. There's more this year, and it changes the rules to how we do things. Pre-1993, it was really easy, but it was really unfair. All that you had to do was form an agency, create the project area, and part of now you have to have budgets, and you have to do all these financial estimates that this is what we think we'll build, and this is how much increment will come in, and all this stuff. Then you didn't have to have a budget. You just defined the area. The redevelopment agency, i.e. city council, took a vote, and they took taxes from the school district, and the school district didn't have any say in it. Water, none of these other taxing had any say. After '93, they started saying, okay, no, they started doing a taxing entity committee. That was a committee that had to approve these. It was made up of members of the school district, you know, a bunch of, well, that's kind of gone away. And now what we do is we do it by interlocal agreements. So it's really fun to get these.
Those interlocal agreements are fun.
So we get, and especially when you're going to the school district and saying, we want to take, you know, not this money, but we wanna take this money that doesn't exist, but a lot of times they believe, well, even if you don't do anything, the same thing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And that's the but for thing. Well, no, there's no but for. This is gonna happen. And sometimes it does, and sometimes these things are abused. We have never had the school district turn us down. We've got 15 projects across the city. Never had one, but it's because we always put something in there for the school district, something in there for the county, something that, made sure that either through fees or, with water, like the water district, they would at least get the fees of the water they're selling or something, impact fees, those kinds of things. But anyway, so you get to go negotiate with the school board, with, Central Utah Water Conservancy District Board, several of these boards, to say, this is what we wanna do, this is, this is how it's gonna help, this is how it's gonna be better for you. Then there's this 20 years, this is when you get your big payday, when all of a sudden this all stops and all the money goes back to the city, goes back to the taxing entity. I still have scars healing on my back from dealing with the South Salt Lake County Mosquito Abatement District. The one with the eBay thing, it was more than eBay, but it was a big project. It was like over 20 years was like $192 million of potential tax increment that would, of which about 25 would go to eBay and others would go to their portion, because their tax rate is so low. I mean, I think they get like, from each house, it's like $3 or something, and it's so low that in 20 years, they're of that 182 million, their amount was like $250,000 in 20 years. And they beat me to a pulp. And there was a gentleman in there that was also an attorney for the UTA. And this was made up of city council members in the area. And he told this story, and I think it's a good one. He said, so let's pretend we're not talking about tax increment financing, we're not talking about economic, we're talking about state of Utah owns a baseball team. And it's an MLB, it's a major league team. And so we all know the rules, and we know you can steal bases in baseball. But we're competing against the New York teams, the Texas teams, we're competing against the California teams, all these, and we're competing, but we decide, we wanna take the high road. We're not gonna allow our players to steal bases. So, are you gonna win some games? Yeah. But are you gonna lose some games because you don't steal bases? Yeah, sure. And so he said, so it's a lot like that with this. It's legal, it's gone all the way to the Supreme Court. They've said that this is a legitimate governmental purpose to doing economic development. And we can choose to do it or we can choose not to do it. Are we gonna, and we're talking kind of statewide, but are we going to get some businesses that come in if we don't do it? Sure. Are we gonna lose some businesses to other cities or other states that, or even cities that do this kind of game? Sure. That we're gonna lose them. Okay, so back to the, we negotiate these interlocal agreements. They can be a little different between each. Before, it was kind of an all in or all out. You'd see the governor's office calling up school districts and school boards and saying, we need your help on this, if you want, and there was a lot of political muscle to get things done. We did the eBay one. eBay's been a great partner. They, I think has benefited, like I say, the school district through their, what we call pass-through. That $1 million they get from that a year, the pass-through, doesn't count against their certified tax rate. It's like getting a bonus, they love that. So the way they negotiated it, but, that's been a good project, and it's worked out well. I don't know if you remember the big fiasco that happened a few years ago with Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
I was up to my gills in that. And Facebook was greedy. They literally said, we want 100% of everything or don't even talk to us. And they wouldn't even give us information. I mean, eBay was, they've handed over their books, we could see everything, they were very transparent. They kept saying, well, we know you're used to me, they kept saying, we know you're used to dealing with eBay, and they were much more transparent, but we're not going to be. And there were just some very insulting emails that went back and forth, and, you know, from, well, not, I didn't, it came to me on, you know, basically figure it out yourself, you know, you're a smart boy, figure it out, you know, and stuff like that. So I finally went to my city council and my city manager, who's my direct boss, and said, I'm gonna throw these guys to the curb. They're just arrogant, they don't want to play, they just want, in fact, they didn't wanna just pay their taxes, they wanted me to figure out a way to, they didn't even have to pay the taxes. I'm like, well, there's, only the legislature can do that. But, well, good, go to the legislature, get them to do that. We just said, you know what, this isn't good for South Jordan City. We backed away. Not long after that, it all hit the news, because West Jordan pushed really hard for it, and all hell broke loose, and there were, you know, anyway. I was a hero for a short time with my city council, because we weren't in the middle of that, because I had broken us loose. So, you know, I mean, you gotta make sure that it's a good deal and that it works for you. Anyway, that's kind of in a nutshell how people get shopping centers, how people get, you know, how cities get, and you know, and like dealing with Salt Lake County is a nightmare. They hate these things. They're like, we don't want any of these in the, you know, and yet they do them in the unincorporated areas.
Yeah.
But they don't wanna have, Jim Bradley, who's one of the longest term county council member, how many times I've heard him say in person and in meetings, I don't care where people buy their toilet paper, in South Jordan or Sandy. You know, well, South Jordan, Sandy does, because we get sales tax on it. You know?
Right.
But they look at it like we're just stealing tax dollars from each other. Well, not really, because if you've seen anything about, you know, how we know how things are, the pressure of growth, the pie's growing. You know, it's not that we've got this pie and we're just stealing from each other, the pie is growing, and we're trying to get, but you don't get these companies to generate, these developments to come in, a lot of times you don't get the companies to come in without some kind of
Incentive.
and so like I say, it's a big game. You know, when you're saying, well, if nobody in Wasatch County ever even does this, why are we even talking about it? I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of, if you know, let's say we take that 100 acres and we really wanted it to blossom, that's what you're gonna have to do. You know, and I don't know of a development around it, and I think unfortunately we've trained the developers that if they're gonna come and do it, then, you know, we keep saying, you know, we tell everybody, if the first thing, any kind of developer or company comes in and the first thing you see is their handout, walk away. But, you know, but do you have any questions at this point, or
Oh, I'm glad we've done this.
does it make sense
yeah.
to?
So what,
Go ahead.
was it Boyer that built Walmart and stuff up there?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure they had to work some kind of agreement with Beaver City.
I'm sure they worked some kind of agreement, I
You
don't
don't think it was something like this?
I don't think it was anything like this, because like I said, I don't think that there's actually a redevelopment agency formed in Wasatch County. I know, if you know, and I absolutely am not
Saying we-
criticizing
Yeah.
Terry Shoemaker at all, but if you remember, a lot of times he would bring up, oh, well, is there gonna be, you know, when we were talking about things, will there be tax increment finance? He would ask those kinds of questions, which were good questions.
And we
Because,
didn't know what he was talking.
yeah. And I would say, no, that has nothing to do with this. You know, and there's different ways you can subsidize, like with the car dealerships, we didn't do any property tax. So we didn't actually go to the other taxing entities and say, we want your sales tax. So we only dealt with, and it's really kind of interesting, that's why Craig Smith is my RDA attorney and we have a city attorney, because even though you got the same board, you're two different governmental entities, you need to look at it from, so you got Brian, and you got the city, and, you know, and so we've got the attorneys kind of looking out for, you know, and they talk, it's not like we're adversaries, but
Yeah.
it's the same people voting on both things. you know.
Right.
But we still have to look at it from a different perspective, and our RDA attorney has tons of experience with RDAs. Our city attorney, though he's a great attorney, prosecuting, all that stuff, doesn't know a thing about RDA. Well,
Right.
he knows something,
But not.
but not to the extent that our RDA attorney does. And so, you know, and we pay for his salary out of these things. A good portion of my salary at South Jordan comes from the redevelopment agency. I don't work directly at the redevelopment agency, but they bill them for a good part of my salary. You know, and so like I said, the chances, I mean, to form a redevelopment agency wouldn't be hard. I mean, because you don't have to ask anybody's permission, you just have to go through all of the steps. But getting to a project area, and like I said, we've got 15 project areas and such. Some of them, the terms have run out, and some have done well, some, I don't think we've ever had any that have been done poorly, but not maybe as well as we hoped. You know, but like I said, unless you can show like a school district that they're gonna have a big payoff, you know, and then there's just, you know, you've probably heard the term corporate welfare. Well, people use it all, this is nothing but corporate welfare, you know, and is it? Maybe, but if you do it right, you do the but for, the only money that anybody, you know, they get what they always got, and then at the end, they have a big, you know, payday. But it's kinda how, you know, it's kinda how it works, and so I, like I said, just so that you can kind of maybe put in perspective and have reasonable expectations for what can happen out there. If you wanted to do something like the district, one, you don't have the population of Wasatch County to justify a development like the district, but even if you did, and you know, we've got, kind of interestingly enough, you know, there's still the location game with real estate. There's a development over in it's on the Harriman border, it's actually Riverton, that a company that has tapped into the California Teachers Association retirement dollars, they finance their stuff. They did the project up at, in Farmington, Station Park. They bought all of those, not Farmington, but this company, basically with super low leases, bought all these stores to come in. Now the stores, from what I hear from the brokers that do all these deals, and another thing you realize is that, you know, Brian doesn't go negotiate directly with Trader Joe's. I mean, I always have city council people, get us a Trader Joe's. Well, I'll go talk to the broker who works for them and see what we can do, you know? But according to these brokers, that, you know, there's a lot of these mid-box stores, the mid-size, that are pulling out of there. They're having problems getting tenants in this new one. And both of them are not in great locations. You think, well, Farmington's great. Well, they've got all that competition up in Layton Hills and all that. They've got Salt Lake City, they've got City Creek. It's just kind of too close. And then we've got, you know, in our situation, we've got, you know, you got the Fashion Place Mall, which was almost scraped during the recession. Basically, the Cheesecake Factory came in and saved Fashion Place Mall. You've got Southtown Mall that's been bankrupt, I think, 4 times since the late 70s when it was built. Too close to Fashion Place Mall, basically. This is just far enough away that, you know, from those that it seems to work pretty good, the district. You know, so, but you look at the other one, and this other company, according to the Boyer guys, every business in the district has been approached by this other group to come and move, and they'll give them this great deal. To date, not one of them has moved, because they all said, that's a terrible location. And so you'd have, you know, like I say, so you'd have some of that with Heber. You've already got pretty central area, Well, you've got Walmart, and you're starting to see some synergy of businesses around there. If a, I don't know, whatever, you know, company wanted to come in here, more likely they'd wanna go there. Cause you know, restaurants like to be by restaurants. You get there, you got a 2-hour wait, you go, well, we kinda like this restaurant, okay. Oh, well, they don't have as long a line. But if I gotta get my car and go drive to find another restaurant, so restaurants like to be by each other. You know, other, like, you know, the teeny bopper clothing stores, they're like flipping sheep, man, they just herd all together. They wanna all be right
Right there.
together. And then you got places like Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's doesn't care where they're at.
Yeah,
They're one of the hardest nuts to crack in all retail, and they don't want, second probably only to Cheesecake Factory, and part of the thing is, they don't wanna be a 7-Eleven. They know people will drive miles to come to them. They wanna be in older stores with cheap rent, and those stores are only like 12,000 square feet, and I think, you know, Louise is, if I remember right from when we built that, when I was with Heber, that's like 55,000 feet or 65,000 feet or something. They want 12.
yeah,
And they don't wanna pay any rent, and they don't care where, they don't necessarily need to be in the fanciest locations where the biggest draws are, like other stores wanna be, cause they know people drive to them.
yeah,
So they're, you know, you've got, all these stores have their own different, what they call psychographics, which is not just demographics, but it's what kind of psyche do they try to attract, and they all have their own formulas. Until this last year, for the last 15 years, I've gone to Las Vegas every year to the International Conference of Shopping Centers show. That's the second largest convention, only to the contractors convention, in Las Vegas. It filled for years that Las Vegas Convention Center.
oh, and that's big,
Yeah, it's like a mile from one end to the other.
yeah,
I think I wore a pedometer once when I was going to all these appointments, and I think I had something like 40,000 steps or something one day.
yeah,
You know, but why do I go to that? Well, I go that to help the brokers. I don't go make deals directly. I don't have a shopping center to loan.
Right.
I go there and I talk to the brokers. I say, you know, if you got something, call me. You know, we set up appointments ahead of time. I'll come help you. Soon as, I don't need to know what your deal is. Soon as we get to the point where I'm not needed anymore after writing, because they wanna know that the city's gonna be welcoming. They wanna
Yeah.
know they're not gonna get stuck in planning commission forever. I kinda joke about my job is to guard them from my planning commission. You know, but anyway, when I say just wait, I'll have another appointment, I'll be gone, and you guys can talk about your deal, I don't even know your deal, you know? And that's kind of what I do when I'm down there, is just try to help grease the skids. And sometimes we offer some kind of something, most times we don't. Cause a lot of that's already been offered to the developer to build a shopping center, so they can afford to charge reasonable
Right.
rates, so. Anyway, so not trying to be discouraging, just trying to maybe give a dose of reality of what,
Right.
you know. And right now, I think Scott can probably back me up on this, but about the only thing being built right now is warehouses
yeah,
and office warehouses. You're seeing a few, you know, restaurants. They joke about restaurant is the new anchor. Used to be Dillard's was an anchor, now it's your restaurants. That's why they, Cheesecake Factory saved, they were the new anchor, you know,
Yeah.
they were the draw. And, you know, then when you bring in restaurants, you know, these kind, you gotta deal with liquor laws, and you gotta deal with how many, you know, those get fun too. You know, we were lucky because there weren't enough liquor licenses in the southwest corner of the valley, so the state kept, they have a limited number, and so they kept saying, well, somebody close down, they push them to the southwest corner of the valley. So there's, you know, there's all those kind of things you get to deal with. Like I say, so I was back on the, you know, the office warehouse, and they're not bad, you know, you've got a few sales tax producing things. If the people have you know, they're talking about putting a boat dealership in that big one, if they could get things worked out with Clint at the county fire marshal's office, and they're talking about building a big water storage tank so the fire company can drop their little drip, I can't remember what they call it, their tube in there that they suck water out of. They don't have to build 5,900 square feet. I understand David's been working with them on some fire flow things, which is great. But if they get that, you know, when we're talking about, well, they're not gonna, you know, so we get Daniel to come over and say, well, they're not gonna wanna help pay for that. We got our problem solved. You know, we've got, you know, in their case, if they don't put any food things in, their septic situation is okay, you know.
Yeah.
You know, Mr. Peterson needs the septic, cause he, you know, wants to do this convenience store, he's got those 2 food things that are, the septic system's struggling to keep up with, you know. So there's, you know, so there's all, you know, and you guys, you know, working great. I told Mayor and Vaughn that I had a long conversation with Mike last Friday. He was really upset because we are not gonna just annex him and trust him that everything's gonna be okay. Look how everything else, look how it turned out in the last development. I said, yeah, we're still fighting battles for you. And we're still getting calls. We still, those proper projects have changed over a couple of different times. Now I think we're on the 3rd owner of that property on the big building. You know, people aren't being told the fire flow situation, they're not being told the sewer situation. I get to be the one to break it to them. They get mad at me and wanna know why the town would ever let that be developed if that was the case. And I said, well, no, we found a way to do it. Here's the rules, you wanna build under these rules, you can do it, but, you know, you can't. You gotta have these fire areas and whatnot, or you can put in the sump tank, or, you know, there's different things you could do. And so, issues resolved, because, you know, there's also, even if the developer put in the infrastructure, the town's still gotta maintain it, you know, for the sewer line. And you promised, you know, and I told them, you know, the city council is not going to raise taxes for the whole of Charleston to subsidize that sewer line.
All right.
And so, you know, it may come out that, you know, I don't think it'll happen, but it may come out that they decide, you know what, your property would be better off in here. You know, and I was telling the mayor, I mean, we get a kind of a deal, and it kind of fell apart, but I thought it was a good deal. You know, Scott Jordan put their hand out to the chairman city and said, you know, there's only so much retail, and it's all gonna cluster, and we've got the district. How about we go into an interlocal agreement, and we'll give you a portion of our sales taxes if you back off and stop trying to build all these little, you know, these stores, and so that, you know, and, you know, who knows? Maybe that would be the answer, you know. And you only know that when you get through churning all the money, you know, it's probably a year from now before you get through churning all the numbers and decide,
Right.
you know, and then, you know, like, I think Vaughn and I were talking, even if Heber said yes today, it'd probably be a year before we could even start constructing, because, you know, and Mike seems to think that we should start next week, and I had to tell him, you know, you're not annexing into an area like Heber City where all the infrastructure's there. You're annexing to it where it's not there. And we, you know, we're happy with what we've got, it's turned out good, but we've still got a bundle of problems we're trying to work through, and we just don't wanna, anyway. So I hope I'm representing you well, because that's the
You are.
message that I got from when we, decided to table his annexation. But, man, I told him, I understand, you got money on the line, you know, it's hard to be patient, but, you know, it's not in an area that's set up to develop rapidly, so, anyway. Any last questions?
Any questions, Mike?
I don't.
I think we got our work ahead of us.
Thanks, Brian.
I think we got a lot that we need to look at and a lot we need to do. This was very good and very informative. I'm just,
I guess it doesn't. Sometimes they have
I'm just glad that we done this, and
now you know what my real life is.
yeah, I don't know how you do
This
it.
is what that's what I do anymore for my real living. But, I don't get out inspecting much, I still work with those guys and that, but most of what I do is deal with, you know, and we like to pride ourselves on that we don't, you know, we don't bring eBay in and then just forget about them. I still talk to those guys.
Move that board, yeah.
I still talk to those guys at eBay quarterly, you know,
Yeah,
the bigwigs that live in, you know, Silicon Valley and whatnot. And,
Right.
And we have good relationships, and we say, okay, what can we do to help you here? And I pride myself, I try to do everybody from the local dry cleaner all the way to eBay, you know. We have relationships, we have a chamber of commerce that helps, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, thank you, Brian. We appreciate that. All the training we can get, we need. I think we're going into some times when we're going to have to decide how we want to do things, how we want things to progress down here, and how we want to do it. And that's where we need to get to.
But I think you're going down the right path right now. I think, you know, getting the sewer, you know, getting answers for the sewer, you're working with the Charleston Conservancy District, trying to get answers on the water.
Right.
I think you're work, you know, like I said, I think, but those are answers.
But then, as
you
soon as we
need
get that,
Before you go to the
then we
point.
have to go, then we have to really address what we want there, how we want to plan for it,
Yeah.
not only
Well,
there, but in different areas
Areas
in
And
town.
it's, and let me back you up, it's not really what you want, I mean, you can have what you want,
Well, it's
but you're also gonna have to look at what's economically
Economically,
feasible, what
yeah.
you can attract,
right,
and how much money, if any, you're willing to throw at it.
right, right,
Or, you know, and I mean, I don't doubt that if you plan that area for, say, some of that area for quarter acre lots, I wouldn't say anything denser than that, no, you know, everybody wants places for apartments, and that's.
yeah,
If you zoned that for apartments, you'd have it filled in 6 months.
oh, yeah, I think so,
But, you know, so you gotta decide, okay, if you did a balance of, say, you know, office warehouse like we've got, or flex space they call it sometimes, and some retail, you know, now you're gonna have some probably property owners that don't wanna sell, but most of them probably would,
oh, yeah,
and you could probably have that developed in 5 years, you know? If that's what you want, you know, but who knows, that may change. Office warehouse, you know, that market may get saturated and, you know, maybe it's not there anymore.
yeah,
But, you know, you could probably get maybe a fast food restaurant or two and a C-store and,
yeah,
but you know, I just don't see from my experience and knowing this area and what's going on, and especially what's going on with retail, which is contracting, not expanding, that you would get many retail uses
yeah.
there.
Okay, guys, it's something for us to think about, think
For sure.
seriously about, and talk about. If there's nothing else, we'll move on. Okay, let's move on to our staff reports. Let's start with Travis,
I don't have anything to.
okay? Karen? Wow. Ryan?
But really, the only thing that happened in planning commission was the
Brown.
Brown application, so you pretty well first with that, and we still got a
Okay.
few buildings being built here and there, but
Okay,
the new permits are a little slow, I guess we got another new one
got another one today, yeah.
today, and we
yeah.
got, you know, new household, the first one that'll happen in the, I can't remember what the name of it is.
Oh, he brought in some more today, but he didn't have his paperwork.
The private street
Yeah,
over there, and, you know,
yeah,
we've got a few
how?
things going. And I keep hearing rumblings of more tenant finishes gonna happen over at the big building, the I can't ever say, is it CBD, CDB, whatever the.
oh, yeah,
CBD.
Yeah.
They're trying to find a contractor and do some things, so.
oh, okay,
So they've committed to go there.
I don't know if they're I think so.
yeah,
I know that the contractor that did the building and also did the carpet store, and the carpet store should be open within 3 or 4 weeks, from what I'm being told, which, some sales tax will come
right,
in
right,
from that. He was just too busy to do their tenant finish, so he's turned them down, and they're looking for another contractor, but it sounds to me like they're committed to going in
oh,
there.
good,
And I think the boat dealership is still trying to work things out so they can make it work. And that, I mean,
Well, that would be
The
nice.
best dollars per square foot you can get for sales tax are car dealerships and boat dealerships.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They bring in a lot of cash.
yeah. Okay, Vaughn,
You can talk about sewer stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll wait for that.
okay? Scott?
We need to look at our road. That's not even after rain.
Well, we have been over there, we have looked at it,
Is that this corner over here?
We
yeah,
got 2 or 3 spots, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. We got 2 or 3 spots that we need to get some drainage on, or we're gonna have a road gone again.
we've talked about it, we've looked at it,
So how did that happen over here? Cause that didn't puddle like that before, did it?
Well, what happened is we got rid of our drain. So they filled it up with road base, compacted it, and now there's no way for water to drain.
Which road's that?
The new one.
Nowhere.
Oh,
oh, it's on the
well,
circle,
this is right in front of
From the
the
school?
Turner's house.
on the,
Okay.
So that's all the way across the street and draining over. That's just off of just melting. That's not even rain.
Is that up in Winter and
And
Falls?
so, yeah, and so there's the corners. You head down into that cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I recognize that fence.
So
we've had,
the Turner's approach, I think, needs to be dealt with too, personally. The Turner's approach is just way negative. It V's like this now at the Turner's approach. Now, he probably hasn't said anything to you, but he's got 1.5 feet of water in his approach all the time.
In Winter Circle.
I know, but where is Turner?
Turners are next to me.
Oh, okay.
They live in that, he's
Down
not there
around
all the
the
time.
corner.
West of you or east? No.
East, yeah. So my house is, you know, the other side of me is vacant, but Turner's own that too. And then there's me, and then there's his house.
yeah,
But there's an easy fix to it, in my opinion, and Brian will probably tell you this, we just gotta come back off the road about 10 feet and dig a hole down to where it'll drain decent and fill it up with rock. Some
okay,
riprap or something.
we have looked at it, we
So is
have
that
had,
something that, the contractor, that we can hold them to come back and do that or not?
Well, personally, he probably did it the way he was
If it was done the way it was designed.
Yeah.
designed to do it, you know, he
so
probably.
we'll have Wes go back down and look at it. I know he's been down there once on that one corner, and we just decided it was because the ground was frozen so hard that nothing
That
would
one
go
seems
into
to
it,
have Drained out better than what it was, but.
yeah.
No, this
Well,
one
it does,
over-
but if you
this
get a
one
warm
over
day-
Stone Lease is the same way.
This is after,
Down
huh?
the corner by the school.
Yeah, let's go bring that up. Still got that pothole, but.
But yeah, if you come off that road a ways and just relieve it
back
somehow, that the water has somewhere to go. I mean, you get down a foot now and you got great drainage, right?
Right,
So come off the road 10 feet or so, Brian will be able to figure this out better than me, but come off that road a ways, just
we'll
dig
have,
some relief right there and let
Yeah.
it.
Travis call Wes tomorrow and
Go
have
away.
him come and look at it and see what we need to do,
Alright.
okay?
I think if we don't, we'll lose a new road.
Well, we might, yeah, okay,
I mean, don't you, Brian?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
standing water.
It's a lot of it though.
yeah, yeah,
Was that taken today or?
No, this was taken February 12th.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Okay.
it'll dry out pretty quick where you won't be able to see them.
Well, yeah, I walked around there the other day and it didn't,
yeah,
see it.
Well, I just happened to be on a walk that day and I thought, well, we probably better talk about
And
this.
when this, you know, when this country drains so fast.
yeah,
Normally, but when it's frozen, you get that sheet flow.
yeah,
Well, this one over here on the corner, when it's wet, that fills up more than half the road.
Yeah, this one is too. So, but it's an easy fix in my opinion, so it's worth probably looking at it.
okay. Call Wes tomorrow, have him come down and look at that, Travis,
Alright.
Make sure those borrow ditches along the edges are working.
Yeah.
That's what they're supposed to be doing, is taking it
Yeah.
down. You say if it got compacted too hard underneath it, it won't go anywhere.
Yeah, it's just, they just filled it with road base and compacted it, which is great. It's wonderful, but
but then the sides need to be where it can
They deal
drain,
with the drainage situation.
and life's a process.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
tell everybody, you solve one problem, you create another one, and then you just have to solve it.
Yeah, and then it creates another one, you solve it.
Another
That's one
one.
of the fights I get in with my planners down in South Jordan all the time. They love these diamond tree wells in parking lots. We're like, there's no, tree doesn't have a chance of surviving, because they come in, compact it
Yeah,
with, you know, to build the base, and then they come and scoop a couple scoops out of the back, they'll drop the tree in, and can't figure out why they won't survive.
yeah.
Because they don't have nowhere to go.
Mhm.
Okay,
That's it, sorry.
you're okay, Jim?
Mine's the same as last time, that corner on 3000 South, right by the school, is still eroding. You can see it now starting to flake out. People are complaining about that.
Check that out.
Well, that other corner up there by Grace Broadhead is the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, on hers, and that's, I didn't want to bring up names, yeah, but and then, not Shoemaker, can't think of her name, on the corner.
Stonely?
Yeah, so, she's got the same flow coming off. I mean, their day, that thing was halfway out in the roadway, so when cars were hitting that, they were just spraying a big spray back on their yard. It was all froze out, so.
Okay,
Where was that one?
over in front of Stonely's.
Right in front of Stoney's. Right
Across
Right at the-
from
right at the end
Brandt's.
of this street,
Yeah, across from Brent's at the stoplight right there.
Stop sign.
right by the stop sign where.
Okay,
It
let's,
was halfway out in the floor.
okay. All right, anything else? I'll go into mine,
That's all I got.
okay? We did have a meeting with Heber and
Twin Creeks.
Twin Creeks, sorry. Heber and Twin Creeks the other day. Things are moving along well with the sewer. We have a sheet that we're going by, and we're going down to, they're making adjustments to it, and then they're gonna do a contract. It'll be a couple of weeks before that contract gets out, because the attorney is going on vacation for 2 weeks, so it's gonna be a little while, but it's looking pretty good. So it's just getting contracts done for us to sign and look at. When it comes to that point, we will have a work meeting to go over all that, to make sure everybody's fine with it. Vaughn, do you wanna say anything else?
I've thought about this quite a bit, and I don't know what the answer is. But I think the days of Charleston just kind of being separate from all that's happening in the rest of the county are over. I talked to Brian today, so there's 2 30-acre pieces of property that have approached him about developing and putting as many homes on them as they can. And then the other one up here on the
That's
side
20
down.
acres.
So I think the thing we need to think about, and I don't know what the answer is, but, and I think the sewer's I think we're gonna get approval. I don't think we'll get the water issue resolved at the same time frame as we do the sewer, but. So we bring that sewer line down, I think we gotta decide what we want, and what we think's best for the town. So we just bring it to the commercial area and stop, and we gotta decide, do we wanna design it so that it's structured so that as people want, and asking for 1,200 ERUs is an indication that we're gonna, at some point, use them, right? So, and Wes's idea is where we put in, it's like, okay, you tell a developer, there it is, if you want it, go get it. You know, at your expense. But whatever the line is, if it's just to meet the demand to that point, then that won't have capacity for a lot more than that. So, and then the other question is, if we run it down to the school, anywhere you lay that line, any developer that knows that that's there is gonna say, well, can I hook onto it? So it's gonna open the door for more growth. The other option would be to say, let's just forget it, let's not do anything, and I know there's people in town that would prefer that. But either way, we're gonna get the growth. You know, it's just gonna be, what do we want? And so I think as a board, we need to think about that and decide, you know, how you wanna proceed, because I think we're getting close enough that we're gonna get approval. And one of the questions that keeps coming up with Heber City, Twin Creeks, and the conversations I've had with Heber City Council is 1,200 ERUs is a lot, what are you gonna do with them?
And the thing is that we only asked for 800. It was them that give us the 1,200.
Well, I asked Wes. Wes said, originally we were talking 800, but he said that him and Willa did some kind of a study or something, and there's capacity for that. So in his mind, you know, that's what they could do, so why ask for less?
Yeah,
Which makes sense if you're planning to, at some point, need them,
yeah,
because what's happened with Twin Creeks is they're going back now wanting to double or triple what they originally got. So
Yeah.
they're gonna have to come back and structure a new deal.
yeah.
And, you know, if these bigger pieces of property start selling, do we want them to be developed into 2-acre lots, cause that's where we're at now? And that's the only thing it would be. Or do we wanna have it so that potentially there can be sewer access?
Go to,
If you develop in 2-acre lots, you better get ready for some serious
Because,
tax raises to,
Yeah.
just to take care of the roads and the
I mean,
sewer.
if it develops in, the whole town were developed just in large lots like that, and we have to put roads in, we're gonna be looking at more situations just like Winter Farms.
yeah,
Economically, I don't, and Brian, you back me up, tell me if I'm wrong, but economically, it doesn't make sense to develop a big piece of property in great big lots with multi-million-dollar homes on it. Your tax base is gonna be a lot better if you've got more
A
units.
2-acre lot isn't double the
Even a-
taxes of a 1-acre lot. And a 1 acre isn't 4 times the tax of a 1/4-acre lot, yet 1/4-acre lot has 4 frontages in the same distance.
yeah,
And I'm not saying I wanna see a lot smaller lots, but if it's gonna grow,
Yeah.
we need to decide how we want it to grow and not let the tail wag the dog.
And with that decision, you decide, okay, how are we gonna finance maintenance in the future?
right,
And I met with Tracy Richardson. I said, Tracy, just tell me, what do you see as the future? Is Wasatch County, the health department, trying to push sewer on everybody? He said, no. He said, I'm fine with septic tanks. I'm not scared of septic tanks as long as they're done right. Well, now what he's saying to do them right is typically, you know, your drain field can't be more than about 2 feet deep, like mine's 8 feet deep. That's nowhere near meeting the standard that they're gonna require. And so, and this square house that everybody's complained about, that they said because it wasn't what's the word?
Have a pitch roof.
Well, what's the word for the lots that were
Because it wasn't, a lot of record.
a lot of record, that they had to put that alternative system in? He said that wasn't the reason. The reason's because they couldn't pass a
perk test.
perk test to where they could allow them to put in a regular septic tank. And if you go start doing legitimate perk tests around Charleston, you'll probably find that at least half the town's the same way.
Probably ours.
As I told him, I mean, I
Maybe
know,
more.
even back when they did the, Soderquist did the septic tests on where I lived, over there, by Michelle, our perk test passed by that one.
That's just how ours did
It
too,
was so fast.
water table there.
Yeah,
yeah,
well, and you've got all that cobble rock, it just,
yeah,
Well, somebody told me earlier today that they did a bunch of perk tests on property, I won't name names, but they didn't pass, and so the guy that dug the hole come poured sand in the bottom of the hole and covered it up so they get water staying on, not to satisfy the health department.
in fact, just like her. Back to the sword water.
Don't look at me, I would.
Oh, I didn't look at you,
would
I
never
just
cheat.
laughing, because that's what you, it's like your road situation.
So,
I know.
I mean, I don't know, all I'm saying is we're getting to the
So-
point where that sewer's close enough, and we're starting to see requests for development here in the community to the point where
We need to make
I
a,
think this is part of what we've got to determine.
I'm saying, if you get sewer, you know, if you want to, you can stay 1 acre lots. But, you know, and I think Ron has brought up before, there may be some areas that lend themselves to a little higher density than that. You know.
Well, you know,
That doesn't mean you have to have townhomes
all
and.
right,
the ordinance is, you gotta have a 1 acre lot with 200-foot frontage on the existing road. Well, there's not many places left like that. And I would say that's fine, other than the health department now says you can't do it on 1 acre, because you can't get a permit for a septic system
Right.
for less than 2.
Kind of back where we were.
But if you have a
15 years ago, we had to have
developer
5 acres for
by,
it.
you have a developer by 30 or 40 acres, and you're gonna put roads in it, that we become the owners of the roads and have to maintain them and everything, I think you gotta rethink that for that area.
So what about, as we stay towards the highway, and as you keep, can you divide it up to the point that if you're by the highway, you're a little higher density, but as you get deeper into town, you get more of that feel of what everybody kinda wants to keep here?
Yeah, and that's what typical, and
You
we
just
have.
kinda work your way
We
back
have 2
in.
residential zones, basically one, we have 1 acre lots. We have an area that's zoned for 5 acres, it's on the other, that orange property that's on the other side of that green mountain Bingleys. But, for the most part, we have one zone, which most cities have 3 or 4 different zones.
Yes,
That some allow quarters, some allow half, some allow
and
one.
as you get deeper into the city, you get deeper into protecting what Charleston is kind of all about.
And
Well, it's, I love Winterton Farms. I think it's a great area, but from an economic standpoint for the city, that was a poor design.
Well, I can tell you, it's not that great of an economic decision for the people living in it either.
yeah.
Well, yeah, it's backfired.
That I can tell you.
But I mean, I don't see it making sense.
Yeah, no, I
Like
get
if-
that.
if Redford and Marlo Edwards, so what is there over there? 80 to 100 acres, 50 acres, something like that. If some developer bought all that, wanted to put a subdivision in there for housing, I think we'd be nuts to do it in 2 acre lots.
Yeah, I don't think 2 acres is the answer either, but I'm thinking if we wanna keep the higher density, we keep it towards where we're looking at. And just start backing it off as you come in to
My
the city.
thought is where we've got existing roads and stuff, we don't do anything different, but if you have a developer going to create a subdivision in that particular area, you could maybe have higher density. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff to think about.
Lot.
But I can promise you, if that develops up there and they run that sewer line down there,
It's game on.
yeah, you've already got a whole bunch of people interested in pieces of property that don't particularly function. Once that's there, they're gonna be more interested.
Tracy tells everybody, obviously, that the sewer's coming. So he's,
I don't know that he's necessarily told that to people. I think he's told people that, we're talking about it, he doesn't know for sure where it's gonna go or what, but.
well, that's my only thought is,
And I asked him, I said, so if somebody comes to you and wants to get the permit for a septic tank, and you say, well, is this a lot of record? I says, how do you determine the lot of record? He said, I don't. The city does. So it's us that tells him that that's a lot of record.
Which is their policy now, it hasn't always been that way.
Yeah,
Well, that's what he told me.
I know, but he and I have had conversations for the last 25 years about it. But, and if they change their policy, that's fine, and I think that's better for us. That's
And I
not
told
always
him, I
been the
says, as
case.
far as I'm concerned, all these city blocks originally were designed with 4 lots on every block. He says, well, if you say that's what it is, you can show me that those lots were intended for that purpose before 1996. Okay.
yeah.
Then And that's the hard thing to keep it straight, is we're really talking two different kinds of lots of record. Talking about the zoning lot of record, which is 73, you're talking about a septic tank lot of record, which is 96.
Yeah,
So there's, almost 20 years, or over 20 years in between there that
yeah.
can be different.
So, yeah, it depends on what you use to determine when and if it was a lot of record.
Right. But I say, like you say, it's a lot of record for a building permit, or it's a lot of record for a septic tank. Which, the building permit is dependent on the septic tank, so.
But we don't have control of our zoning.
Well, and Tracy said that he.
Health department's got control of our,
Until the sewer comes in.
because of the sewer restriction.
Right, yeah, the engineer on this one project that wanted to do the 21 acre lots, or, has now come back and wanting to design it for 2 acre lots, and they said, Tracy told him, oh yeah, I'll approve septic tanks on 2 acre lots all day long. No problem, just come.
And I asked him, I said, what about these alternative systems? He says, there's about 25 of them in the valley. He says, the school's not working. Greenfields, he says, had some problems to begin with, but he says, working beautifully now. So he says, it all depends on if they're put in properly.
Like about anything else.
So
A lot
Lon,
to
what are you
think
thinking,
about.
what are you thinking on size?
Hmm?
What are you thinking on size?
On what?
Size
Size.
of lots, if, for a sewer?
I don't know.
To me, 3/4 to an acre feels pretty
I
good.
don't wanna see us having to do another road project like we had to do over there
Yeah,
without more tax base. And like we said, my philosophy's been, if people wanna do these subdivisions, make them a private road, but if they get beyond, what, 6
5 lots.
6 lots, 5 lots, then you can't do it.
Yeah. And 500 feet.
Yeah,
huh,
Now, we could change that, but let me, you could say, we're not gonna allow public streets, everything has to be a private street. But let me tell you what happens in those.
yeah, they
cities.
just go to pot.
That you end up building, and the developers love them, cause they can build them to a lower standard than the city streets, and then the next thing you know, all those residents are saying, we're paying taxes just like everybody else, you take over our streets. And you say, no, well, eventually you get 2 or 3 people on this board that are
There's that.
sympathetic.
so, yeah,
And next thing you know, you're taking over substandard streets, and you're back to Leonardton Farms, So private streets isn't the answer. Most cities, in fact, most cities don't even allow private streets anymore just because they backfire on them.
Mm.
We've tried to do it just as a way to allow some of these odd shaped pieces and some different things to be able to.
But I don't know, I don't have an answer to your questions other than, if I drive around Charleston, go drive up through Center Creek and see those areas up there they developed into 1 acre lots. They got nice homes on them,
Yeah,
and sometimes there's a nice home and a nice yard right here, and then on each side there's a home with a little grass around it, and weeds are 100 cars out there.
Typically, they take landscape about 1/4 of an acre around them, and then everything.
So,
everything else, yeah.
You know, a lot of people sell 1 acre lot, but they don't realize what it takes to keep it up. So my thought, I'd hate to see it go below 1/2 acre, but
If they enforce it.
in a subdivision, that would make more sense, I think.
3/4 of an acre is actually a really nice feel for a neighborhood too. A 3/4 acre lot,
But I'd hate to see these 1/4 acre lots.
me too.
Well, you can design them to have narrower frontages and a little deeper.
And, we could put it in our planning some way that we're gonna require open space in it, parts of that somewhere, so that we keep
Yeah.
open space.
Yeah, you could.
We could have more density, in this spot, but have this spot left
That's kinda
open
what
for
the-
open space.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
kinda what that farm and open space preservation subdivision does.
Yeah,
yeah.
We've kinda got we've already got it's still, it doesn't solve our sewer situation.
No.
Well, through your
But
mind.
but it still,
What do you
at
think?
least gives you some design variety, rather than.
From the perspective of these people in town that own the land,
Do the quarters or whatever,
yeah,
look at it for what it is.
they're gonna be in favor of bringing sewer when somebody wants to develop it, it's available.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's, depends on what happens with the highway.
Which is totally their right as landowners.
And
But-
so, you know, I think the people are gonna come, and they're gonna start building. And the other question is, okay, you buy 2 acres, it costs you,
Yeah,
what,
no,
$1 million?
Mm-hmm.
I get
Well,
that too, and not
who
only
can
that, I
afford
think,
$1 million for a building lot? What kind of house are they gonna build, $3 or $4 million house?
And that's,
Well, that's all well and good, but do we want our whole community to be like that? I
No.
don't think so.
and the Charleston base is probably aging themselves,
yeah,
and we're not seeing a lot of young come in.
Well, they can't afford it.
That's exactly right, that's what I'm saying.
but if we take it down to half acres or quarter acres, that would help.
No, it would.
And I'm not saying
nice
to
to have a
open that
place
up
for
to
everything.
everything, but for some big
Yeah.
developer that wants to do a project, I think we'd have to consider that.
Yeah, that's.
And maybe he's gotta buy enough property to keep the open space and he gets the,
Yeah.
It's nice to have variety.
Yeah,
yes, it
If
is.
you come in and
I'm
buy
like
the
you,
20 acre lot out to
I don't
develop
like
that,
these
then you can make
subdivisions
that
that
a
just fill the
small
whole space up.
quarter
Quarter
acre
acre
lot,
lot.
that's fine. Because most everyone else is already
But half
established
acre lot's
their
pretty
home
decent
space.
lot.
right,
So it's not like I'm
You know,
gonna
the
go
thing
into my
about
acre and break it up into 4
Half
lots.
and 1 acre.
Yeah,
or
no one's
3/4
gonna
acre.
do an
Yeah,
argument.
that's
still-
what I mean, we're
they
not
just fill
breaking
up
it up,
that
it's
fast.
just development, and that
Yeah.
makes more taxes for the town.
Well, that's
okay,
something
I think that's something we need to think on. If the board feels that we need to have a work meeting and kind of go over that, we can do that, just let me know what you wanna do. I think that, we can move on now to,
Just for, I think, you know, you're going down the right path. I think once you get the answers for the sewer, then you've gotta get some answers
to
for water.
the water, right, and then
Because
we
like you
have
say, 'cause
to,
there may not be, you know, the water may not be sufficient, because
Right.
if the conservancy is planned for 1 acre lot for every 1 acre.
yeah,
So you've gotta figure out the water and the sewer, and then I think, once you, then it's, you're gonna have to spend some time and money trying to figure out,
Yeah.
okay, you know, we did that general
How are
plan
we gonna do
thing a
this?
while
Yeah.
back, and involve the community, and there's gonna be some real
Some of that doing it.
serious,
yeah,
long, you know.
Well, if and when that sewer line gets run down there, $1 million is gonna be interesting,
Solve that
100
too.
acres.
yeah,
Okay, I'm keeping this open.
Oh, and they're gonna want apartments
I
and
think we
townhomes.
just,
Yeah,
sit down and look
yeah.
for the open space left.
If-
and
you know,
that's
if
why
you
we have
don't
to be
annex it-
prepared.
If you don't annex it, Midway may, and I've made what you have on your
You
border
might
anyway.
have a
Yeah,
development come in and they wanna put one big
Well,
business in
that-
one of those acres.
Wes says that, and I agree with him. If we don't do it, Heber City will, and they won't care what goes in there.
No, I
Yeah.
agree. I totally agree. I'm living that nightmare down in South Jordan, the community to the south of us.
Okay, let's go on to some fun stuff.
We thought we were done.
No. Utah Leagues,
Fun?
Utah Leagues of City and Towns. We have a mid-year conference in April in St. George, April 21st through 23rd. Everybody writing this down, or you just listening to me? April 21st through 23rd. We've gone to these before. They didn't have it last year because of Corona. This is what they, through in-person conference, COVID precautions. Masks will be required at all time except during meals, which is nothing nor unusual. Social distancing will be in effect. Attendees must have their own transportation to venues. That's, I don't think. Attendees must show proof of negative COVID-19 test within 72 hours prior to check-in. Find testing sites throughout the state. Attendees must submit a daily symptoms questionnaire. And venues will have social distancing rooms set up. safely prepared food and beverages and hand sanitizer dispensers will be widely available. If we want to go to this, we need to get our room reservations made. I don't know how many of you will be available to go. And these requirements may not be as bad as we think they are, but I think we're all used to COVID testing, and I think we're all used to all that kind of stuff. So, how many of you think you'd be interested in going to this?
Days of the week are that?
They usually use Wednesday through Friday.
It's usually Wednesday, and we're done by Friday and on our way home Friday about noon, aren't we, Vaughn?
April 21st
First.
is a
Thursday, Friday.
Wednesday,
Mm-hmm. So it's usually,
23rd's a Friday.
we usually go down on Wednesday night. They have kind of a barbecue or a social get together. We register. Thursday we have meetings all day. We have meetings and then they break out into different little
Breakout sessions.
sessions. Thank you. Breakout
Yeah,
sessions.
General sessions.
We all choose where we want to go and we go to them sessions. Then we can confer with each other and help to see what them sessions told us. Usually Friday morning we haven't got an agenda, but usually Friday morning they have David Church or a speaker of some kind speak to us. Oh, no. And then lunch. We have dinner on Thursday night. They have lunch on Thursday for us. So if you want to go and take your wife, you can do that. If you want her to have the meals, you just have to pay extra for her meals, which is what most of us do. But we really need to decide if we want to go and get our rooms reserved. We've always stayed at the Fairfield, well, except one year. It's $119 for a king or 2 queens. The Hyatt place is $124 for a king. Now the Hyatt is the one that's right next to it, right, Karen? Did we decide? That's the one, Vaughn, that's right there, and you can walk right out of it and walk into the convention center. Fairview is down the road a little ways, not a lot, maybe a block.
The mind can only absorb what the bladder can.
Okay. And then the Holiday Inn Convention Center is $124 for king and $134 for 2 queens. The Hyatt is $124 for king and $134 for 2 queens. Now, if you want to go, we'll make reservations. If you can let us know by Monday.
What's it called again? What's the name of this?
Utah Leagues of City and Towns Mid-Year Conference. We learn an awful lot at these. Now, I've gone.
Did you get the email for that?
Probably.
They sent me an email for
I don't know if I can wear a mask for 3 days straight.
Well, you get to take it off. Well, and you know how we do anyway. Anyway, I think that it's good a learning experience for the board members to go. I think it's good. It'll be really good learning experience for Karen and Jamie this year. I think that we should really consider it. If you can go, please let us know. By Monday, Karen will make room reservations. I would like to stay at the one that's right there by the convention center.
The Hyatt?
Or the Holiday.
The Hyatt.
You can walk out one door.
You just walk out, you walk right over there and you walk right into the convention center. I think that's the best one. It's not that much more than Fairfield. I know one year we had to get our room somewhere else and that was it was okay, but it wasn't the nicest thing. So, but if you let Karen know on Monday, we'll get room reservations made. And, just for you to know, this is training, so the town pays for this. We have a budget set in for this. So if you wanna go, let us know.
So I'm a lame duck, do I need to go?
Huh?
I'm a lame duck, do I need to go?
Yes,
She's gonna try to convince you to change your mind.
I am. I've got to get Diane off to the side and talk to
She's a
her.
stubborn woman, good luck.
I'm a stubborn woman too. Okay, if there's nothing else, then I will move for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
We have a motion. All in favor? Aye.
This one? I don't feel good it's not
No.
for you.
No, I had
Karen?
I'm good, we can work on it another time. I think it's just.
So what is your thought? Well,
I mean, some of them are just a few words here and there.
maybe they're our thoughts.
This is have to be.
Go ahead.
Like, the land just, I've seen some of these, it's like, to go to the, like, the land.
All right.
You gotta take out the whole thing.
So I've had this
Well,
college that were like, well, this isn't like.
trees here. And I just thought, no, we're responsible.
Right. I mean, it's like, is there certain
So what I would,
specifications we gotta
but
have?
basically what I would do is just keep a mental tab of how often certain things get requested.
Well,
Another
the forms and stuff like
Yeah,
building
well, I know, that's what I'm
permits.
saying, you know, maybe you want the building permit, but you don't want this other one.
Right. Cause they just like, I just haven't, I just haven't to yet.
That's all we've ever done.
No.
More and more cities, yeah, that's worse, you know, more and more cities are giving these programs, where you submit everything